Welcome to Living the Empowered Life podcast. I'm Tamiko Pugh, also known as the Empowering Diva. Each week, you'll hear inspirational interviews as well as actionable tips and strategies that you can implement into your daily life to help you live a life of passion, purpose, and potential. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump into today's episode of Living the Empowered Life. Are you the go-to person in your group of friends? Do you have a zest for life and enjoy helping others reach their full potential? Do you feel a calling to make a difference in the world? If this is you, then you may want to consider becoming a life coach. We have a virtual online training starting soon. Our life coach training focuses on helping women who desire to motivate, inspire, and empower other women by using their skills, expertise, and experience to thrive as a personal development coach. Using the empowerment formula, participants will learn step-by-step tools, tips, and techniques needed to attract great clients and build a thriving, purposeful, and profitable coaching business. Get all the details and register at www.tamikolori.com/life coach training. Welcome to another episode of Living the Empowered Life. I'm your host, the Empowering Diva, Tamiko Pugh. In today's episode, I speak with President of Coaching to the Heart, LLC, and grief recovery specialist, Diana Curtis. Diana is a sought-after advanced grief recovery specialist, educator, life coach, and speaker with a history of great successes in her work. After healing her own crippling pain of grief, Diana turned her pain into purpose and created Coaching to the Heart, LLC, a coaching practice to support other women seeking transformational breakthrough in their lives. As a creator of grief healing solutions, she offers a variety of holistic approaches to processing grief with attention to easy, peaceful coping for anyone suffering from the pain of loss. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this powerful conversation with Diana Curtis. Diana, welcome to Living the Empowered Life podcast.
Thank you, Tamika. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm so excited to talk with you and to share you with the Living the Empowered Life community. We had an opportunity to have virtual coffee a few weeks ago, and I just literally fell in love with the work that you're doing because it's so needed. I think a lot of us are grieving right now. We're dealing with COVID-19. And just grief in general. So I really wanted to talk to you about what you do as a grief recovery specialist. So can you tell us a little bit about that and who would need a grief recovery specialist?
Oh, yes, I would love to. I love that question. So as an advanced grief recovery specialist, I help primarily women who are struggling with the emotional pain of losing a significant loved one. I support them in healing the pain of grief in a more loving, peaceful way, because we knowing that grief is an acceptable, it's a natural, and it's a normal response to any kind of loss. So I support women in learning how to honor their loved ones more than they honor the pain. And by that I mean, it is absolutely necessary to go through the process, the grief process. Because if you don't, it just stays in your body longer than you desire. So here's the great news. If they choose to, once they start healing the grief and the pain in the body, it opens up their heart and space for them to begin building legacy around their loved ones.
I love that.
Yeah, because we are our loved ones' future once they're on the other side, right? So we help keep their spirit alive. We help them we're helping ourselves as well as keeping our loved ones' spirit alive. So we're also helping others. We're giving our gift to the world. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Absolutely. I love that you said we're giving to give that gift to the world, our loved one's gift. We get to give that to the world and create a legacy, building a legacy around that loved one. And oftentimes we don't really think about that. We're so stuck in the pain process. And so you mentioned the pain staying in your body. Can you explain that a little bit? What does that mean for us to have the pain in our bodies?
Right. Pain, emotions, feelings, they don't die. They don't
Mm-hmm.
die. We swallow, we pack them away, and they just get packed away in our bodies until we decide we want to release them in a healthy way. In fact, an unhealthy way, it's all packed away in my body, right? So it's going to come out. Those feelings will come out. But if we are not in control of it, they might come out looking in ways that we are not happy with, nor will our loved ones and our relationships be happy with it. So it stays in the body, it doesn't die, it just festers and it shows up in different
Mm.
ways.
Right. It shows up in different ways. Wow. So I love that you said honor the loved one more than the pain.
Yeah.
Honor the loved one more than the pain. That's something that just really stuck with me. I think oftentimes we get so caught up um, in the pain that we feel, but that we forget to honor them and we forget to honor their legacy. And there was something else that you said. You talked about the pain being in the body. And so I wanted to ask you grief. I understand that it is a full body experience. So can you share a little bit about how grief is a full body experience?
Yeah, wow, full body experience. So, the best way I know how to explain that is to talk a little bit about who we are as individuals.
Mhm.
Now, we know we are a body because that's what we see all the time. You see my physical body, I see your physical body. There is no question about that. But it's those in the invisible parts of us, like our spirit, like our mental body, and our emotional body. Grief is an emotion, just like love and fear. So when I say full body experience, when we're grieving, we feel that on all levels. We feel
Mhm.
it spiritual when something happens. We disconnect from our higher self, our power, the core of who we are, the love of who we are. When we experience loss, mentally we sometimes we spiral into thoughts and our thinking depending on the situation. We may be asking ourselves, if it was a child who drowned, did I do enough? Where was I? And then we move into that spiraling of guilt and doubt. And as we do that, as we think certain things, those thoughts,
Mhm.
that will move us to specific emotions, guilt, shame, whatever. And then there's a physical reaction. So grief is happening, or whatever the feelings are, is happening unconsciously. We really don't think about it
Right.
on all four of those levels. So it's a full body experience, whether it's grief or something else.
Well, that's very powerful. That's a very powerful way to put it. One of the things that we often talk about, so the living the empowered life, there are 6 principles of living the empowered life, and one of them is to live a life of purpose. And I oftentimes believe that the work that we do, it's purposeful. It's something that we're called to do, but oftentimes it's something that we have experienced that kind of pushed us into that area. So, do you think your life experiences has pushed you into your purpose of helping and empowering people with grief?
Absolutely, without a doubt. After losing my mother at the tender age of 3, it led me down a path of feeling abandoned, rejected, isolated, and mistrusting. Now,
Wow.
as a 3-year old, I didn't have that type of language, right? But as I grew up, I realized all of those was just forms of grieving. The sad thing is, I didn't know what it was. I too swallowed my pain and I
Wow.
went on with life. as though I had not lost my nurturer, the person who was supposed to be my role model, who was supposed to show me how to be a woman. So once I realized what grief was and that I needed to grieve my mother, I did just that. And here I am today, speaking with you and others about grief. Yeah,
Wow.
sometimes we just don't know. So once I got kind of on the other side of grief, and that doesn't mean that you ever heal it, it's just that I'm all better now. So I made a commitment to myself to work with other women to normalize grief, show them how to grieve, and help them trust themselves enough to know that they will be okay on the other side of grief.
Wow, that's amazing. You will be okay
You
on the
will.
other side of grief. That gives you something to look forward to. You know what I mean? I think oftentimes we're stuck. We feel like we're going to be stuck in that moment forever. We say, when is this feeling going to end? When is it going to go away? When am I going to be? When am I going to feel normal again? I
Right.
remember my first marriage. Unfortunately, it was abusive. It was very toxic. And I remember going through that grief process. I mean, I didn't know it back then, but now I understand that it was grief. And I just didn't feel normal. And I would say, when am I going to laugh again? When am I going to have fun again? When am I
Mm,
going to feel good again? And so looking
right.
back on that, I'm like, wow, I'm on the other side of grief now. And so it's a blessing. But at that point, I
Yeah.
had no idea when I was going to get to the place that I am today.
Yes. It takes us to places that, well, it's taken me to places I never imagined for myself. I can't say that I would be on this path had it not been the pain in my body around my mother. I don't know, but I am so happy to be doing this work.
And I'm happy that you're doing this work. It's so needed. It's
Yeah.
very purposeful. It's very needed. So let me just say thank you for this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
hmm And so, as I was going through your bio and kind of catching up and familiarizing myself with some of your work, you mentioned grief healing solutions. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, grief healing solutions. That is my signature, my premium signature program. And it's just taking a form, just opening up and taking on its own life,
Mm,
bigger than I could ever imagine.
wow.
It is about that whole body healing. And it's a system, it's designed to deal with the pain and confusion we all have, all of us, all of us. It addresses those four things I just mentioned: the mind body, the emotional body, the physical body, and the spirit body. And here's what most people don't think about: the mind and the emotional body is like a dancing tribe inside of us. They're always, those two are married and they're always working together, either
Mm,
for harmony or chaos.
yes.
So the grief healing solutions are just that: solutions to help us create a more healthy relationship with ourselves, with life, and with others. And then once you got that healthy relationship, especially with yourself, you are able to form a healthy relationship with your health, your money, your career, whatever it is that you would like to work, your purpose. You just
Mhm.
mentioned it, that legacy building, that purpose work, whatever you would like to work on. So you're living from a place of peace, purpose, and fulfillment.
Yes. And at the end of the day, I think we all want some type of fulfillment. And
Yeah.
you mentioned dealing with pain and confusion. The word that stuck out to me was confusion, because oftentimes we're so confused and we say, why me? Why did this have to happen? And it reminds me of, as life coaches or as coaches in general, literally our jobs is to help people gain clarity out of confusion. So it reminded me of why I actually got into coaching, because there are so many people that are confused about just anything in life, right? Like, why did I have to go through this? Or I'm confused about my life purpose, or I'm confused about why I have these fears or these limiting beliefs. And so our job is literally to help them to gain clarity out of confusion.
Yes, love that. I love that. As a spiritual life coach myself, one of the main components is that vision and peace. What I know for certain is, as when once you lose a loved one, you really do start asking yourself questions about what type of impact am I making in the world? What am I supposed to do next? Once you move through the pain, like we said, when you're in that pain, it's like nothing else matters. But as you move through that, those questions come up and you realize you have more life behind you than you have in front of you. And
Mm,
that's when that life visioning piece starts. So, yes, I love your statement, gain clarity out of confusion. I love
yes,
that.
absolutely. And speaking of confusion, I think a lot of us are in that state right now with dealing with COVID-19. People are dealing with grief and stress and confusion, and we don't know what to do next. We're in the house. We're feeling anxiety.
Yeah.
I had an anxiety attack. Just to be transparent, I had an anxiety attack a few weeks ago because I love to be around people. I'm an extrovert, and there just a moment something came over me one day, and I started crying. And I thought, how long are we gonna have to live like this? Like I think I just had a reality check at that moment, and I started to cry. And I'm like, why am I crying? You know what I mean? Like things are good, but I think I was just overwhelmed at that moment, just to be, transparent. I think a lot of people are dealing with that. And so as we deal with COVID-19, what can we do to kind of manage our stress at this time?
Yeah. So let me comment a little about your comment that out of the blue, you felt anxious.
Hmm.
And my comment to that is the world is being swallowed up in grief.
Mm,
And there is God's universal laws, which includes energy, affects all of us.
yes.
All of
Mhm.
us. So there will be moments that, and I've had them too. I don't know what I would label it. That wow, if I don't watch TV during the day and I just watch a little bit in the afternoon, and all those statistics just fly into my soul. Yes, that makes me anxious.
Mhm.
So at
Mhm.
some point, I'm like, well, just don't watch at all. So know that it's affecting us all. And that is a perfect example. If we don't get it during COVID-19, that we are one body connected to the big body of God, we will never get it. Because what's happening out there, we may be staying out of the way of the virus, but it's also affecting us. Yeah, we are one. We are all connected. So, but back to you. I'm sorry, I digressed a little
No,
bit.
no, that was great information. I love that the one body connected to the big body of God. Like I thought that was amazing.
Yeah. So, some practical things. Hmm. Self care is critical. Now, if you turn the TV on, everybody's telling you how to take care of yourself,
I know.
right?
Hmm.
Everybody. It's unique to each of us. And of course, I'm going to, my initial reaction to protect myself and stay grounded is to do those, first things first. Take care of your spiritual body first thing in the morning, the minute you wake up, whatever that means for you. And I'm not talking woo woo, whatever. I'm talking about just nourishing that part of you that is love no matter what is happening on the outside. But we have to nourish that the same as we clean and wash our bodies. We have to nourish our spirit. We have to feed it with stillness and quietness and meditation and prayer, affirmation, whatever that looks like for each individual. So that's my number one thing that I would offer to people: self care, take care of your spiritual body. You have to. That's your intuition. Start out your day with that. Walk in your backyard, walk in nature's conscious
Mm-hmm.
breathing. It doesn't have to, and I'm not talking about religion. It doesn't have to be any doctrine or religious anything. It's just feeding your soul.
Yes.
So that's number one for me. Now, the mental piece, watch those thoughts. They're the ones that's causing that next feeling, which is going to be your emotion. So just stay in tune with it. When you feel the anxiety, the anxiousness, ask yourself, well, what did I just see? What did I just tell myself? What's the voice that's coming through? Just watch every word. My teacher taught me that every word we speak is a prayer. So, what are you praying for? And Joel Osteen said, everything that comes after that, I am, that's what's going to be true for you.
Mm-hmm.
Watch what you're telling yourself. Watch what you're telling yourself. So again, it's always for me going to be the spiritual, the mental, the emotions. And what are you doing with that physical body? Get out, move it. This body was made to move. Can't sit around all day lest the energy is not moving through. So we're feeding the body the right stuff, the right food, breathing sunshine, lots of water, and
Yes.
sleep. And
Yes.
we're also doing the same thing for our spiritual body.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love that because we have a lot of things in common, and that right there, everything that you said is literally on my list. And I think that it's
Mm.
okay just to be. I keep seeing people on social media saying things like, if you don't come out of this with a new, if you're not an entrepreneur by the time you come out of this, or if you haven't done all these goals, and I'm like, that's a lot of pressure on people who are experiencing anxiety or may have already had some type of emotional issues, and it's a lot of pressure. So oftentimes when I see that, I'm like, no, if that's what you feel like doing, then do it, but it's okay to just be. It's okay to be in the moment, be quiet, just be wherever you want to be at that moment. I think it's okay.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
And the other thing you were just talking about, nourishing the mind, body, and soul. And I have a question for you because this is very important to me. You
Okay.
mentioned the first thing in the morning. I think it's so important that we all have some type of morning ritual or some type of morning routine. Doesn't have to be spooky or And I always say that because I'm an avid believer in meditation, sitting in silence, and some people think that you know meditation has to be spooky and it's ooh, and it's like no, you're praying, and then you sit quiet and you listen. So those are the things that I like to do first thing in the morning. So do you have a morning ritual or a morning routine that you do to start your day?
Oh my goodness. Yes, absolutely, I do. It actually starts before I get out of bed, unless I'm having to jump out of bed and go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know how that goes. So yeah, I just start my breathing before I get out of bed and just go to a state of gratitude that I I have this next breath. I'm still here. And then I set the intention for today, for the day. What is it I would like, God? Now, at that point, I'm sort of doing it from my mental state. I haven't really tapped in, but because I have these practices that I do all day, every day, I have some residual in there. So I'm drawing from my spirit all the time. So I go ahead and set the intention for the day that I would like. And this is no joke, Tamika. Out of my bed, I'm marching through my office to my altar.
Mm.
Yeah. There's like a trail. If you probably, it's not literally a trail, but that is what I do. And I'm in meditation. Different times, sometime depending on where I am. I could, because I've done this for a minute, for
Mm-hmm.
longer than a minute, hour and a half, whatever. And I'm not implying to your audience that you have to go there. Start with 5 minutes,
Yes.
just getting quiet. So it's the meditation, it's the prayer, this is the affirmations. It's just really getting in my body and listening, being quiet, getting rid of some of the mind chatter from the day before. And I also do something very similar at night before I actually fall off to sleep.
I love
Set
it.
my intention for the following day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, wow, that's so important. Setting your intentions for the next day. I think when we set our intentions the night before, it gives us something to wake up to do. It gives us something to be excited about for the
yeah.
next day. You know what I mean? You set your intentions, you know what it is that you're expecting, and it gives you a reason to get out of bed like, hey, I got expectations. I have things that I need to do. And
Right.
so, Diana, I love the fact that, first of all, I believe that you're definitely walking in your calling. You have a very calming spirit, just, and the way that you speak is very calming, it's very soothing. And I think we need more people like you that are in this work, that are helping people to heal. And so I just wanted to say that I'm just like listening to you and I'm like, wow, she has a very calming spirit, very soothing, very loving. And like I feel it through this conversation. And it's, if I had a little bit of anxiety, it's gone now just because
Oh my.
the way that you present the information. Yes. So just, you are definitely doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Thank you, my love. Thank you. Now ask my kids that question and see what they say. But anyway, yeah, this is kind of normal for me. Of course, I have my moments too.
Mhm.
Because I know about conscious breathing, I practice conscious breathing. I'm like, well, let me just breathe before I respond to this child, you know?
Right.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's mindfulness. What mindfulness parenting? Take that deep breath.
exactly.
No, I love it though. I can feel the energy. I'm like, wow, this is literally. If I had an ounce of anxiety, it's already gone just by listening to you.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for saying that because when people call me, and this is something I practice every day, we have to feed the body, feed the spirits, feed the mind. But when people call me and they want to talk about COVID-19 and really get into the negative part of it,
Mhm.
I allow them space to do that, but I'm not staying there alone with you. And they get a little bit upset.
Mhm. Yeah.
No, because I know the truth and the power of what is meant for me. And you probably know the same for yourself. And I'm walking in that power. I'm staying in that power, but I'm not dismissing what's happening around me. I'm also holding this space for that and sending love and light out to people are losing loved ones all the time.
Mhm.
So,
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for all that you do. What's really impressive is that I think it's important. We all know that it's important to give back. It's important to make sure we're doing something to build up our community. And what I love about you is your initiative with offering service to women who are incarcerated. How did you come up with that initiative, or can you just tell us a little bit about that?
wow. I wish I could answer the question, how did I come up with the initiative? I've asked myself, well, how did I get into the prison, the jails, Father? That's not really part of my, what's the word that people use? It's not part of my family pattern. No
Uh-huh.
one really been in jail that I'm aware of. But I don't know. I just started working with serving women in the jail, mostly Gwinnett County Jail.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I could attribute to that is, although my sweet spot is working with women without mothers. Now that comes as no
Okay.
surprise, right?
Okay.
Because of my losing my mother at an early age. Many of the women behind bars had no role model to teach them how to be a woman,
Right.
i.e., me. Same thing. But we choose to go different routes. Their mom may not have been around, and their mom may have been addicted to drugs or just didn't want a child. So, all of that is emotional pain that these young women are dealing with. And there, by the way, there are some older women there too. And sometimes they end up hanging out with the wrong people, wrong guys, wrong girls, whatever. And they just need some guidance from someone who will not judge who they are and where they are. So I go in without any concerns about their offense. Sometimes they share, sometimes they don't. Really not my issue. I see them as me. I see them as a woman needing support. So that's how I go in. I was already doing the spiritual work, but in order to get into the jails, I had to have a different card. So I did my work and became an ordained minister so that I can,
Wow.
not just for that reason, but that's the one of the reasons that I can go to the jail anytime I want without going in with the churches. Love the church, but the women know scripture, the
Mm-hmm.
Bible scholars. That is not all that they're wanting. So I get to go in as a spiritual life coach.
Yes,
As
yes.
yeah, and I love that work too. They're just like me. They're just like you. You and I chose a different path.
And they need you. I think they need your services, they need your expertise. And I think I love how you said they know the word, they know the scriptures. So you don't want to have to go in and like you're hitting them upside the head with the Bible, right? But literally just giving them some practical tips that they can
Exactly.
implement at that moment. So I think that's amazing. It's amazing work that you're doing.
Yeah. And I think that's true of so many of us, even those of us who are not behind bars. We know the Bible, we know scripture, we're Bible scholars.
Hmm.
We know the what. Sometimes we're missing the how and the integration. Yeah, I understand this word. The word of God is powerful, but how do I integrate that in my life? And that's what these women are looking for.
Absolutely. I love that. Love everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. I took away a lot of great information. I was taking notes as I often do, especially when I hear something good or something that I think I can apply to my life or someone else may need the information.
Okay, so Tamika, we talked about, you had asked me about the full body experience. And I know your work, and I know that you're so open about it. And I know that when one person show up in a room and be transparent about their stuff, it gives everybody in the room permission to open up and be transparent about their stuff. So I just wanted to share with anyone, what about when you experience abuse on all levels? And
Mhm.
here's a perfect example. The man of your dreams, you married, he strikes you unexpectedly doing a rant. You end up with a black eye, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually broken. The physical part is you have that physical appearance of a black eye. Spiritually, you're just broken. Mentally, you're telling yourself, it was my fault. If I had just been quiet, whatever, whatever. Emotionally, a lot of times there's so much shame involved. We carry, I said we carry the abuser stuff with us as if we are to blame for their stuff, and they're not. Yes, I've had my experience with domestic violence,
Mhm.
an ex husband. And here's the thing, I watched it growing up. My cousin beat his wife.
Well,
Nobody ever physically abused me, violence, abuse towards me as a child. But that energy was in my body, and I attracted it in my life as an adult. So, women, please, if you have kids, don't, if at all possible, allow them to be exposed to that because it will likely show up in some form in their life later on. So,
wow.
yeah, abuse, grieving on all four levels. physically, the black eye. Yeah. Emotionally, guilt, shame, blame, whatever. And mentally, who knows what you're telling yourself? And you're spiritually broken. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so powerful, very powerful. And you mentioned being spiritually broken, and I often tell people, physical wounds, you can see those wounds when they heal. It's easier to heal from a physical wound than it is an emotional wound or a spiritual wound. And it's like, how do I mend a broken spirit?
Yeah.
How do I put a Band-Aid on a broken spirit? You can't. And so, you mentioning that, it just kind of brought back some of the things that I experienced. It wasn't always physical, but it was emotional. I was spiritually wounded and really had to rebuild or build my spiritual muscles in order to move forward. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes. Yeah. You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Before we go, I want to make sure you had an opportunity to share everything that you had on your heart to share that you thought was important. So do you have a final thought or a charge for the audience at this time?
Yeah. My charge would be my takeaway. Hopefully, the message is if you're dealing with anything, loss, broken heart, lost a loved one, your innocence, your freedom, whatever, know that it's okay to get a mental health checkup. We all need it. Reach out to someone that you trust, not just anyone, and choose not to suffer in silence. And lastly, community. Stay in community. Healing occurs in community. Choose not to isolate. I have decided to do a private Facebook group, Women Helping Women Healed from Grief. If any of your audience interested in joining that group, and I can send you the information later, I would love to have them join. It is a safe, a sacred space to encourage each other's heart. Yeah.
I love that.
So the other part is if anyone is interested in, I know I went really quickly. If they're interested in hearing more, they can always find me on Facebook at Coaching to the Heart, or they can email me at Diana@coachingtotheheart.org. And I'm out on Instagram. Finally, I have not wanted to do social media, but Coaching to the Heart is out there. And it's no coincidence that the word heart, I tried to change it. It just, God won't let me. It's all about the heart. Our hearts are broken. So let's heal them together.
Absolutely. Oh, wow. I love that. So
Yeah.
I love that you said, if you're dealing with anything, know that it's okay to get a mental health checkup. Oftentimes we forget about or we don't realize the power of getting a mental health checkup and how important that can be. And then
Yeah.
not suffering in silence. That's one thing I always want people to know is that you don't have to suffer in silence. And then stay in community. Staying in community is so important. It's so key because we weren't meant to be alone. So staying in community. If you all want to get in touch with Diana, she's Diana@coachingtotheheart.org. I'll make sure I post all your information once your broadcast goes live. Thank you so much, Diana. I really appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you. I so enjoyed it. Thanks so much.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Living the Empowered Life. I hope that you enjoyed my conversation with Diana Curtis and that you were able to draw some inspiration as you continue your journey of living an empowered life. And remember, it's perfectly okay to admit that you're not okay. So ladies, listen. It's time to discover and live your life purpose. It's time to value yourself. It's time to set goals that are going to move you forward in life. It's time to rebuild your confidence. It's time to fearlessly walk in your authentic power. And ladies, it's time to live the empowered life.